Okay, so today's lecture is going to be on back half. And what the back half is it's a PF specific lecture, but it can be like applied to pretty much every format of debate. But really what the back half is the last couple of speeches. So it's kind of like the rebuttals that wrap it up. So yeah, it's a PF specific lecture, but the last two speeches and Grand Cross but it encompasses the last two speeches and Grand Cross and public forum, but it is a strategy that can be applied to like pretty much every debate form. So here's the structure of a public forum debate. Here are the order of speeches. The ones highlighted are like speeches and crossfires that like constitute the back half. So usually there's not going to be any cards read in these. I think actually always there's not going to be any cards read in these. So these are the speeches that we're going to be going over today. Also, I actually don't do public forum. So if anybody who does public forum wants to like correct me if I like explain anything wrong, like please feel free to just interrupt because I'm not like super educated on public forum debate. Okay, back half strategy. So arguments don't win rounds, choices do. Sum, GCF, and FF is where all the choices are made. So that's the summary, the grand crossfire, and final focus. So that's basically where you're narrowing down the debate and determining where you want the debate to go and hopefully win the ballot. So you shouldn't be letting the judge think. At the end of the round, the judge shouldn't be trying to like piece everything together and then make a decision. You should be kind of explaining how the judge should vote in these last couple of speeches and grand crossfire. And I'll go more on that later. Yeah, so it should be one cohesive unit and each speech should build off of one another. Okay, so in these speeches, you're going to choose your best end of the round story. And basically what you'll be doing is you'll kind of be creating a narrative of how the debate's gone and how the judge should evaluate the debate that allows the judge to kind of access your framework and vote for you. And also it says depth here. The idea is you don't want to like just repeat all of your arguments in the final speeches. You want to kind of tone in on the arguments that you think are most important and then that you should actually go for, because depth is greater than breadth. That's what people say in debate. So you should be kind of explaining the warrants and all that kind of stuff for your arguments in the final speeches. So it should definitely be kind of an in-depth speech that paints a narrative of how the debate should be evaluated for the judge, because again, you don't want the judge to be doing much thinking. So yeah, again, you're just going to be talking about the most important things. You're going to be kind of cutting it to one contention. I'll get more on that later. But yeah, so the final speech is like the summary, the final focus, and even grand crossfire. The questions you should be asking are going to be about the contention that you think your opposing team is going to bring in their final focus. You should be trying to like attack that, and then also you should be trying to explain your arguments in the grand crossfire given they ask you about that. So yeah, do not do three independent entities. Basically what that means is the speeches, the summary, the grand crossfire, and the final focus aren't completely mutually exclusive from each other, but they should build off of each other. And the idea is you want to kind of have like a cohesive flow from the summary to the final focus that is like super comprehensive for the judge and is really easy to understand. Because again, it should be a narrative. It shouldn't just be a bunch of arguments that are all over the place, because not only does it then make it hard to evaluate, but also it's super disorganized and it's kind of hard to kind of narrow in on one argument when you just have a bunch of different ideas scattered around three random speeches or two random speeches in a crossfire period. Okay, so in the summary, you're trying to extend every position. The summary is not the last speech. The final focus is the speech. So this is kind of like the precursor to the last speech. It's called the summary because you're literally going to be summarizing what's been happening during the debate. So you're going to try to extend every position and pretty much, oh, no, you're not going to do that. Whoops, that makes sense. I was kind of confused there. So you're not going to try to extend every position. The idea is you're going to like, again, narrow in on one argument or a couple central arguments that you think are going to win the debate. So you're not going to just completely be repeating your case. That doesn't make sense. And don't waste time because, again, these speeches are really short. I think a public forum speech is only like 50 minutes or like 45 minutes or something. So again, you should be taking a lot of time on the arguments that you think are quality and the ones that you think are going to win. And the way in which you determine whether or not you think an argument's going to win is based on two things, in my experience. Number one, how well you believed you explained it, and how receptive the judge was to the argument. For instance, if the judge was like nodding their head and like completely understanding what you're saying, and you have like a lot of evidence on that argument, it's probably one you should go for. Or if your opponents don't cover a given argument that well, that's probably an argument that you want to take into the summary and final focus and hopefully win the debate on. Because again, if it's not covered very well, they probably dropped a lot of aspects of the argument or of the contention, which means you probably have offense going in the final focus, which is a good thing and how you win debates. Because you don't win debates on like defense, you win on offense. So grand crossfire, make sure it's not a shouting match and make sure you're staying on topic. I don't know that we've gone over crossfire yet. I know I had an office hours lecture on it, but you should be trying to find a bright line between being confident and being abrasive. So during this grand crossfire, you should definitely be confident, but you shouldn't be like in any way rude or condescending or anything like that. And also it's like super important to make eye contact with the judge as opposed to your opponents, as opposed to your opponents, and make relevant points. Why isn't this? Did I skip some? Oh yeah, I did. Whoops. Okay, final focus. Do not extend all of the things. Again, you should be narrowing in on some. And don't, oh yeah, so this is important. Don't magically rediscover arguments that disappeared from the round. So if you drop something, or if your opponents drop something earlier in the round, and you just randomly decide to bring it up in the final focus because you think like it's gonna win you the debate, it's probably not. Most likely, if you didn't extend it in the summary or the speeches before, it's not really gonna be evaluated if your opponents drop something. And also, if you're gonna go for an argument that you like didn't read in previous speeches, oftentimes judges just won't evaluate that argument because you literally dropped it. Yeah. Okay, how they should be used. Again, it should be one cohesive unit that builds off of one another. One should lead to the other, and it should paint like a beautiful ballot story that helps the judge evaluate the debate. Yeah, so choose your best end of the round story and understand what to go for based on how well it was covered by your opponents, how confident you are in it, and how organized the flow is on that contention. And again, depth, talk about the most important things, set the agenda. You want to be the one determining how the debate will go down. You don't want to like give that power to your opponents, if that makes sense. So it's definitely super important that you're setting the agenda. You know, you're really arguing for your framework. Basically, framework is how the judge should evaluate the debate. So you want to win. If you win, like that your framework is better, or the way in which you think the judge should evaluate the debate is better because there's like external impacts, then it's going to make it so your arguments fit into your framework better, and then you win the debate. Because if your framework is like weak, it's probably not a good thing. Yeah, and you should have depth. So yeah. Okay, summary. So your job is to do big picture thinking and making choices. Prioritize choosing all arguments is equal to choosing none. So you should be prioritizing what arguments you want to go for, how you want them to be organized, and how you want them to be put on the flow and evaluated by the judge. So it's my advice would be go for the arguments and go for the contentions that you have the most offense on. So basically, the impact calculus lectures I think is tomorrow, but if you have any like impacts that are that you think you're going to be able to win in impact calculus, then you should probably go for that contention. For instance, that might not make sense right now, but like if you have an impact that's like global nuclear war, and then there's like a different impact that's, you know, not as serious, it's just like a drone strike, you should probably be going for the nuclear war impact given that you won probability. So yeah, extend the necessary pieces. Weighing equals luxury. Yeah, you should be weighing different arguments against each other. So yeah, and you should be extending all of the parts that you think are necessary for you to win the debate. And that's pretty much under your jurisdiction. But again, you definitely want to go for the ones that you feel strongest about and the ones that were not covered well by your opponents. Yeah, consult with your partner. So it's super important to make sure that you and your partner are on the same page, especially going into the last couple of speeches, because again, you don't give the summary and the final focus. You give the summary and your partner gives the final focus, or vice versa. So you and your partner should be on the same page on what arguments you want to extend, how you want to extend them, and how you're going to weigh arguments against each other. Order of importance. So this is like the method for summary. So like you can order your summary this way if you'd like. I mean, you shouldn't have to like kind of stick to the structure, but I'd probably write this down because it might be helpful for you in the future. So number one, if necessary, is framework. Again, I explained framework is just how the judge should evaluate the debate, how you think they should at least. So you could say something like, the judge should evaluate the debate based on the most probable impacts, or like something like that. And you trying to give a couple of warrants as to why that's good, you know, and you spend like 15 seconds on that. Two, rebuild your best contention or argument. So you're not going to restate that contention, but you're going to extend the arguments that they made against that in their rebuttals, and you're going to answer them. So basically, if they answer one of your arguments, you're kind of going to be like answering that rebuttal and extending your case. Again, yeah, you should be doing a bunch of weighing during this speech, and you should spend some time on this because this is kind of the offense that you have in the summary. It's like rebuilding your own contention. It's like answering, especially if you're pro, it's answering, you know, any arguments that they made against it. So it's definitely, this part is super important in the summary speech. So yeah, you should be rebuilding your best contention. And then again, you should be attacking their contentions. So your partner will make attacks on them and you should be extending those, because if you don't, if you just drop it in the summary, that means you conceded their points and that means they're pretty much going to win. So it's definitely important to argue against them as well as argue for yourself. And a good tactic is not to go for the most answers, but go for the best answers. So if you have a couple of answers like with really strong warrants that, you know, you think are like super logical and super tangible and are probably going to be like make or break arguments in the debate, you should definitely go for those. Even if you have like a list of a bunch of different warrants that like aren't great, you should only read the most important ones, because again, this speech is like not very long. And you should be prioritizing their best contention. So you shouldn't be answering every single thing that they have on the flow, but the ones that they have that are the strongest. And then 4, your second best contention argument. You should not spend that much time on this, but you should definitely like restate it and remind it just in case they absolutely blow up your strongest contention. You know, you have that emergency option, which can be definitely helpful. Okay, grand crossfire. So grand crossfire, as you know, is a period in which all of the debaters in the public forum debate can ask each other questions. So it's not just like 2 speakers, it's all 4 of them. And I think oftentimes they take turns asking questions. I don't know, I'm pretty sure, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So y'all are gonna be taking turns asking questions and answering questions about your cases. So in grand crossfire, you should be focusing on your best argument. You should be, also it's definitely important to flow cross-ex. So if they give any iffy answers that like aren't good, you should definitely be writing them down and then referencing them in the final focus. You should be analyzing their warrants and investigating their warrants. So if they give any warrants that are like kind of stupid and don't really make sense, you should be pressing them about that. That's a good way to win the debate, especially in like the novice level. A lot of kids struggle to answer questions in in crossfire. So like if you ask them to explain a warrant, sometimes they'll just be silent. And then you reference that in the final focus, like they have no warrants for this argument, which means it's like not substantiated at all or whatever. And you can kind of win a debate based on that. Examine the trash. So yeah, a lot of times in public forum, well, in really any format of debate, there's going to be just a lot of like stuff that nobody really understands, that like isn't super relevant to the debate. You should be asking questions about that. Yeah, trying to press them on the stuff that you think there is kind of weak. Create depth, discuss and compare arguments, and set up for the final focus. Yeah, and also you should be consulting with your partner. Like, I think throughout the whole entirety of like the debate, you should be talking with your partner and making sure you're on the same page and have like different duties allocated, that kind of stuff, because it's super hard to like, unless you're like super familiar with your partner, like you won't really know what they're thinking, and you want to make sure that all the work gets done and you have the best chance of winning the debate. So you should be talking to your partner for 10 seconds, like, yeah. Second speaker start, first speaker finish, and then free prep time. So that's the method for grand crossfire. Like the second speaker goes first, and then there's prep time. If you're not asking or answering questions, you have some time to prep for the final focus. Yeah, stay on message. That's pretty self-explanatory. Stay calm, investigate. So final focus. This is the last speech of the debate. And in this debate, or in this speech, you're specifically going to be toning in on a couple of issues and going super hard on them. But a lot of what you're doing is going to be weighing evidence and weighing arguments. For instance, if you don't know what that means, that's like looking at two pieces of evidences. This is just one example, and comparing them. So you're saying, our evidence is better because of this, this, and this, or our argument is better because of this, this, and this, or you should default to our method of debate for these reasons. That's kind of what weighing is. But also when it says to weigh, it also means to weigh your own arguments against each other. And you should look at like what arguments you have the most cards on, what arguments you have the most like analytics on, and you should be choosing those arguments to take into the final focus and hopefully win the debate using. Yeah, again, you shouldn't be letting the judge think. You should be demonstrating the thinking for them. You can even like, you can be pretty like general with this, but basically what it's saying is that you should be walking through how they should evaluate the debate, that kind of stuff. Like in this final focus speech, you should be like writing their ballot for them pretty much. And don't go for the buffet steak. What that means is like throughout the entirety of the debate, you're going to be making quite a few arguments, but you're not going to go for all of them. You're going to focus on the best ones or the steak, and you're going to go for that. I mean, it is a strategy to go for the buffet, but it doesn't work often. And I definitely like don't recommend doing that, because when you try to like go for all the arguments, you know, each individual argument that you make is going to be weaker, and it's going to be kind of easier for them to cover. And even if they don't cover everything, like if you make one argument that's like decent and not great, and they drop it in the final focus, it doesn't guarantee you a win. So yeah, sell it. Final focus method, leave prep at least 30 seconds. So that's just prep time. Build on summary. Again, these aren't three separate entities. You should be building and extending on each one. And you should kind of have like a connection between the summary and the final focus, and even the grand crossfire. Like if you want to kind of build up for the final focus, you can ask questions specifically that like indict or implicate the evidence that you want to take into the final focus if you're like answering answering their arguments in the final focus. So yeah, you should just kind of be building on each speech and for the final focus, because ultimately that's probably the most important speech. So method one, ballot framing. You should spend 15 seconds, just a couple of sentences on this. And this is when I say like write the judge's ballot for them. This is what I mean. So basically, if you don't know, the ballot is like what the judge writes their decision on, and like they write why they voted for which team on the ballot. So you should be writing that for them, not physically, but like in your speech, you should be talking about why you should win the debate and why they shouldn't, and what are some like reasons to prefer your interpretation or your kind of model of debate over theirs. Answer their best couple of arguments. How to choose. So if you're second and they already gave their final focus, I mean, it's pretty obvious like what arguments you should be answering. But if they haven't done their final focus, you should definitely look at your flow and just make an educated guess on which arguments they're going to go for. So predict. Extend partner's best answers from summary, just a couple of them, 20 seconds. Yeah. 3, your best argument, big gun. I don't know what big gun means, but yeah, you should be going for your best argument. You should be referencing the summary quite a bit and already like extending the work that you've already done in previous speeches. And you should be talking about why their answers don't work in Grand Crossfire. So if they give any like bad answers, you should be referring to that, or any good answers. Like, you know, you should just be talking about why their arguments don't make sense or shouldn't be evaluated, or they just don't work. Weigh and impact comparison. So yeah, so if you win one issue, you can kind of frame that issue like the end all be all for the debate. So if you win that nuclear war will happen, like you can win the debate, you know? So you should say like why winning this one issue is enough to outweigh everything else. So yeah, that's why depth is really important. But you should kind of be explaining that. It's like super kind of like meta argumentative, if that makes sense. So again, like it's kind of repetitive, but you should be writing the ballot again in the final focus. So yeah, so this is similar to like the framework in the first 15 seconds. You should be wrapping it up and basically writing their reason for decision for them. So it makes it easier on them. It makes the debate a lot more cohesive, and it makes their speeches kind of work together. So last chance, you should be kind of relaxing, making eye contact, even throughout the speech. Like if you're not directly reading off something, you should be like looking at the judge, making eye contact with the judge, kind of slowing down on important parts and putting a lot of like emphasis on the important parts. So yeah, this is your last chance to win the debate. So you want to do your absolute best in these last couple of speeches. Yeah. And that's the end of the lecture. This was the drill that like was on the drill sheet, but apparently it's like we're doing a different drill. But yeah, does anybody have any questions on the lecture or anything? Here, I'll stop sharing my screen. Wait, did we go long or not? Wait, okay. I don't know. Oh, yeah, so for our modified public forum, there's not going to be a grand crossfire. And the final focus is going to be an extra minute. But I think that structure of like the final focus, like the method parts in the slide will still apply. You can just spend a little longer on different parts of the final focus. But yeah, does anybody have any questions? No? Do the TAs have anything to like add? Okay.
Good.
Oh, what's up?
I think we're good. I was just saying.
Oh, okay, cool. Does anybody know what drill we're doing? Because like on the explanation of the drills, I think it's like there's like a wrong one on there because we're supposed to watch a video, but I think Megan told us, or Mira told me, that as opposed to watching a video, we're just going to give them 2 impact scenarios and have them like weigh them.
Oh, I think I don't know how they will weigh it because we didn't give our impact lecture.
Yeah, we have that tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think lab B has like it flipped, so that's why they're probably doing the impact one today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can like message the Discord, but I'll share my screen again, I guess, and then show you what the drill is on the volunteer schedule, just in case we do this one. It's called Fill in the Round, and basically you're going to be giving the back half or like one speech of it. And what'll happen is we're going to watch. I don't know if this is what we're going to do. Like this is kind of tentative, but what we'll be doing is we're going to be watching the first half of the public forum round, which is, and the link is here if you all want to watch it at home or anything, if we don't end up doing the drill. But we're going to have y'all flow the round. And then after the first half, we're going to be assigning students on AF or neg, giving you prep time, and you guys will give like a summary for your assigned side, because it'll help you kind of like build on the skills that you hopefully learned about in this lecture. So yeah, I'm gonna see if this is the drill we're doing. I'll ask the Discord. I'll stop the screen share. Actually, I think we probably could have them like try to weigh impact scenarios, but just based on like warrants as opposed to like actual impact calculus, you know? I don't know. We can have them just kind of like improvise it or something.
That works too. But I was just like, we didn't do it yet, so you
Yeah,
might have a different experience than
yeah,
what Lab 1B is doing. So
yeah, I know what you mean. Also, if we were to do it that way, we'd have nothing to like post on the Discord for them to like refer to, because there's no instructions for that. You know what I mean?
for which one?
For the one that's like just having them weigh two different impact scenarios, there's no like
Oh, yeah.
specific instructions that we could like post on the Discord that they'd refer to. So
Yeah.
I don't really know how this is gonna work for the drills, but if y'all have any questions on anything, like, you can use this time to ask us while we try to figure this out.
Does anyone have any like specific questions about how to give a summary or final focus?
Should we just like call on them to like answer questions or something? I don't know. I just Megan hasn't responded yet, so
Yeah, sure.
okay. Can anybody tell me if okay, wait. Let me try to find a good question to ask. Okay, can anybody explain what a ballot story is?
What the judges are writing down?
Kinda. Basically, it's the ballot is what the judge is going to write their decision on. If they sign a ballot and they choose a side, either pro or con. So basically a ballot story is how you're going to frame their ballot for them. That makes sense. So it's basically like you're writing their decision for them in your own speech, explaining why you should win, why your arguments are better, and any refutation to their arguments. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, can anybody tell me what the back half is?
The back half is all the speeches and the grand crossfire after the, like starting with the summary. So basically it's the summary, the grand crossfire, and the final focus.
Yeah, you're right. Good. Okay. And also for your guys' tournament, just for like future reference for this weekend, you're not gonna have grand crossfire, and your final focus will be a minute longer. I don't know if I said that already. I think I did, but yeah, just so y'all know. But I mean, understanding like grand crossfire is like important if you know you do debate in the future. So yeah. Okay. What is the purpose of the summary speech? Okay, so the purpose of the summary speech is to kind of paint the big picture for the judge of the debate and prioritize the arguments you want to go for in the final focus and hopefully win the debate on. That's why it's called summary. You're kind of like summarizing what's happened in the debate thus far and kind of like narrowing in on certain arguments that you feel are the most competitive. So yeah. I guess for the drill, we'll just have them like compare impact scenarios and like have them weigh, because I haven't like heard anything else. So that might be a little confusing, but like, I don't know. Also, does everybody have a partner for the tournament? Like if you're gonna go? Okay, cool. Does anybody not have a partner? If you don't have one, like say something in the chat or just tell us. Okay. Okay, so Megan gave you a new partner. Okay, so I assume it's all good then because she probably put it in like the Google Sheets. So you should be fine, Sabrina. Is there anything? Oh, I'll stop recording now.